Welcome to our podcast series on diversity and inclusion, brought to you by the Association for Coaching, the world's leading independent professional body dedicated to promoting best practice and raising the standards of coaching worldwide. I'm Dr. Alexandra Morgan, Senior Lecturer and Coach Educator. In this series, we're privileged to be talking to a superb range of coaches and consultants whose work is making a significant contribution to advancing diversity and inclusion in society and in the coaching profession. We hope this series sparks curiosity and encourages change. Welcome back, everybody, to our podcast series on diversity and inclusion. And with me today, I have Pippa Simou. Hi, Pippa.
Hi, Alex.
So, Pippa, you are a coach and a specialist in ADHD, and your company is called ADD-Vantage. Tell us something about your work.
So I would say the focus of my work is to help primarily girls and women live well with ADHD. ADHD in itself isn't a mental health problem. It's just a difference, a variety of being human, I suppose. I work with my clients to help them live the best they can, to be the best version of themselves with this condition. That's really what I do.
And how do you see the difference? You know, how does that affect the girls and women in their everyday lives or the way they go about work? Can you tell us something about that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, lots of people, when they think about ADHD, the stereotype that comes to mind is a very fidgety, probably naughty, defiant boy somewhere around, I don't know, 8 or 12. And they don't think that it's possible to have ADHD and not look like that. But it is very much so. I think the clear distinction for the majority of males and females with ADHD is, I would say, that males externalize their symptoms. So we see what's going on, we see if there is a struggle, but females tend to internalize their difficulties and tend to be incredibly good at masking and finding coping strategies, not necessarily healthy ones, but ones to sort of help them fit in at school, maybe at university, maybe in the workplace. But typically they'll be really struggling with executive function, they'll be struggling with emotional regulation, they'll probably be struggling with other things apart from ADHD as well, because it often comes with other goodies too. And again, they'll want to be fitting in. So it will be managing all of that, trying to fit. So it's a big thing to carry if you don't know you're carrying it or you're not carrying it well.
So how does it feel to carry it? How does it feel to be in it?
I have ADHD, and I discovered I have ADHD just a few years ago. So I've had a lifetime of feeling a bit rubbish, a bit broken, not as good as I should be. So I was, my profession prior to this was teaching. So I would say to myself, you should be doing this, Pippa, you should be doing that. And the other mums, when I became a mum, oh, Pippa, you should be doing this and you should be doing that. So it's a lifetime really of beating yourself up and comparing yourself and measuring yourself coming up short all the time. And I think the feeling of being on the back foot, of always running, of always just about saving it, and feeling like an imposter a lot of the time. I mean, those things, I'm quite lucky. Nothing terrible has happened to me. I haven't had huge mental health struggles, but untreated, unsupported ADHD can lead to very serious mental health issues. Dr. Susan Young documented them quite recently with her colleagues. There was a consensus on female ADHD, so lots of people contributed, highlighting the really big, serious vulnerabilities we have as a group to things like eating disorders, suicide, very risky behaviours, and so on. So it's I feel lucky. Luck, not good management. And
I imagine good management is part of your coaching approach.
Absolutely, yes. It's sort of understanding the brain you've got and allowing that, living as you were made to be, I suppose, rather than trying again to fit and be like the other people, because if you're not made that way, then it's you have to, I think it's accepting who you actually are and letting go of who you thought you should be. and giving the woman or girl you are some love for a change. Interesting. I just finished my master's in psychology, and I did some research which involved a self-compassion intervention for women with ADHD, and it was hard to find the compassion in it. It was a written thing that they were doing, and as a group, it seems that we find it pretty hard to feel compassion towards ourselves.
And how, presumably in your PhD, did you find a route to enable that self-compassion?
It was a master's research, my research project for my master's. I think my conclusion from the research was that women with ADHD would need much more support to be able to access a self-compassion intervention than I could offer. So I was doing it remotely. They were doing it like on an online platform. And I think that I don't want to say that we're not capable, but I think we needed much more support to be able to get there. So I measured their well-being and eating behavior, actually, is what I was interested in. Did the intervention to see would the self-compassion improve their well-being and make their eating more ordered. And it didn't make any difference at all. Although some of the women said it was pretty good participating because it was the first time they'd even thought about those things.
Okay.
So it might have had a benefit in that regard.
Yeah. What were the sort of magic ingredients, if you like, that you were trying to work with there and you were trying to find out for your clients?
One client in particular affected me. I met her at the very beginning of my work. It was an 18-year-old girl, and I knew about our vulnerability to eating disorders. We're 6 times more likely to have bulimia, 3 times more likely to be anorexic. And I met this girl, and she'd been hospitalized with her anorexia, and she'd been in and out of mental health services. She'd been in an eating disorder clinic. She'd been hospitalized, so under very, very intense supervision. And nobody investigated whether she had ADHD or not, even though the mother had continually said, do you think it might be ADHD? Do you think ADHD might be going on here? And it had never been picked up. And this girl, her spirit had been almost crushed by the experience. I don't know. It just touched me in a way. And she was incredibly resilient because she actually taught herself her GCSEs herself in the hospital.
Wow.
And she actually got her GCSEs to pass through to A-levels. And I believe she's about to embark on university life. So
fantastic.
she's
Good for
been,
her.
yeah, I'm really thrilled for her.
But what an extraordinary coping mechanism to be able to teach yourself.
So it was that sparked my interest in that particular vulnerability, I suppose. I think my overall conclusion was, if a female ends up in an eating disorder clinic, it's probably good to screen them for ADHD. And if they end up in an ADHD clinic, it's probably a good idea to also screen them for an eating disorder, because particularly if they're just being diagnosed later in life.
So is there a working definition of ADHD that you work with and that would be useful for our listeners to know?
Well, so currently the term for this condition is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It's not a terribly good description for what it actually is. It's a step up from minimal brain dysfunction, which is what it was prior to this. I think most people that live with it would say it's not a deficit of attention. We've got too much attention. We're paying attention to everything all of the time, and that's the problem. Yeah. Also, people don't realize that we can give our attention when we're interested, and that's the difference. Basically, we have an interest-based nervous system, and the majority of people have an importance-based one. So
interesting. Okay, tell me more about that.
So when we are interested, it's like a hook, I suppose. It gets all the transmitters firing, and we can focus incredibly to the point that it's considered hyper-focus, and we can become incredibly knowledgeable and skilled in something that we're interested in. However, if something is important, but we're not interested in it, it's not that we would argue and say it's not important. It's just that we cannot make ourselves do it. We cannot bring ourselves to it. And that hits you hardest when you're a child, when you're at school, and you literally have to do everything that everyone else has to do, the system that was, designed for the majority. By the time you're an adult, you can live according to your interests. So I was an RE teacher before this, so I was super into religion and loved
Mm-hmm.
kids, so it was all good. And that probably saved me to a degree. And with the stuff that's important that I'm not interested in, either I have to give that to someone else to do, delegate to my partner or somebody else, or it doesn't get done, or
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, pay someone to do it for me, or I have to give myself such a big juicy reward at the end of it that makes it interesting to me, if that makes
Right.
sense. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it does make
yeah,
sense. Yeah. And I think probably a lot of us could relate to a lot of that, but I think the difference is that if you have ADHD, you live with that all the time.
exactly, Alex. I'm so pleased you said that. My Pippa's pet peeve is everyone has a little bit of ADHD, because yeah, the
Mm.
fact is that we're living hyperactivity, impulsivity, and attention. They are, of course, part of the human condition. Everyone is those things sometimes, but we're living with that 24/7 whilst trying to be someone's parent, someone's partner, someone's employee, run a
Mhm.
business.
Mhm.
It can be, yeah, quite a juggle. So yeah, we experience those things more often. The impact on us is greater than the average person who's lost the plot in, I don't know, a Netflix series they're watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you for explaining it so well, because I'm now more able to imagine the kind of issues that somebody with ADHD might have at work, for example.
Yes, definitely.
I've just had a random thought. I hope you don't mind me sharing it, but when I try and help people prioritize as a coach, I often use that urgent importance matrix. I don't know whether you're familiar
Yes,
with
I
it,
am.
but it
Yeah.
seems to me that that would just be,
Yeah.
a total waste of time, with somebody with ADHD.
That's why I say to anybody with ADHD, if they're going to get any support intervention at all, CBT, coaching, anything, they have to really check that the person delivering either has the condition or has a super good understanding of what it is to live with,
Mm.
because otherwise it's a waste of time and money. That matrix, although would be interesting, and I'm sure I could have a good talk to you about it, I wouldn't be able to access it in the same way.
No.
I had an interesting moment with a client recently, as a new client, and we're talking about the next appointment, and I said, "Oh, I can do 3 p.m." But I said, "But that might really ruin your day." And she was like, "Oh my God, you know that?" And I was like, "Yes, of course I know that." She went on TikTok and she was like, "I've just met a coach that knows if you have a 3 p.m. appointment, you cannot do anything before the 3 p.m. appointment." And she was really surprised. But of course, I know that because I live like she does. So yes, I think it is really important that people with ADHD are supported with people that either really understand it or are living with it themselves.
And now, of course, I'm sorry that we started our meeting at 4
Oh,
o'clock.
no, 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 no. I have managed. Don't worry. Don't worry. I have
Good.
managed. Um, yeah, I would say I'm living well with it. I feel like I am
Mm.
living well and I can manage my symptoms. And, I feel most often I am the best version of myself, and
Mm.
but much more comfortable with myself now, understanding the brain that I have. And that's a that's a really nice position to be in for a woman of my age. So
Yeah.
I'm glad
Yeah.
for it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I thoroughly understand why you're motivated to try and help
Mm.
people younger
That's
so
it,
that they
yeah.
can.
Yeah, it tends with a girl, it tends to be she copes and copes until she can't, and it's a question of really when, not if. So it will be where there is a transition. So maybe she'll manage fine in primary school, no one will notice anything. Maybe she'll feel fine, but then she'll go to secondary school, the relationships between girls get more complicated, more complex, more layers to
Mm.
them. The
Mhm.
learning, there's more demands on the learning, more teachers to juggle. So it could be there. She might be fine though. She might manage her GCSEs. Then the wheels might come off with her A levels because now there's independent learning, like using your study periods and, self-starting. But she might manage there fine. And then maybe she'll go to uni, but the wheels will come off there because it's learning and life. And then,
Mm.
that, or it'll be motherhood. There'll be something that will finally cause her to really reflect and think, whoa, there is
Mhm.
I need to do something about this. I need to find out what's going on with me. Um,
Mm.
it is unfortunate that quite a few of those transition points show up at a time where you could say, oh, well, this is a teenager and we expect this in a teenager. Or it might show up after you've had your first child, and then it'll be like, oh, well, we expect this when you have your first baby. Or menopause. We expect all of this when you're approaching the menopause.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So in your work, Pippa, how do you help others? I assume you help them with firstly identifying and then with coping mechanisms. Can you tell us a bit about what you do?
So I don't have a course or a session 1, session 2. I find
Mm,
that it is very much a spectrum condition. People don't talk about it that way, but it really is. So I meet them where they are, talk to them about where they want to be. What would it look like if it was better? Like if it was how they wanted it to be, what would it look like? And then we look at steps to try and achieve their goals. And I, probably like every other coach, walk with them on the journey.
mm,
I don't really do anything. I suggest, I facilitate, I offer accountability. I'm their cheerleader, I suppose, like anyone else would be. It's really led by them. I always say that I don't think we can achieve much in less than 6 sessions. So I would give that as a minimum, but I wouldn't say
mm.
there's a maximum. Some of my clients I've been working with maybe for 12 months, but I don't see them as regularly as I did. Maybe I see them once a month. Or if something really changes for them, then I might see them again. But really, it's about helping them find what will work for them to help them be the best version of themselves. And because it varies so much, because no two of my clients are really the same, it's always, what's the word, bespoke. It's
Mm,
always yeah. So yes, that's how it is. And probably I would say a strength of ADHD is like emotional literacy, intuition. I think that is something that is a gift of the condition, and I'm pretty sure that is what enables me to be an effective coach, or a more effective coach. That I seem to be able to draw on that.
mm. Do you have any feeling as to why that is a gift of the condition?
Well, so let's say you struggle to maintain your attention. That's a problem. But then you can
Hmm.
also have hyperfocus, which is
Hmm.
amazing. So with the area of emotion, women in particular, females in particular with ADHD, have hyperarousal, so tend to feel things bigger and larger, tend to move
Hmm.
between extremes more frequently, tend to have trouble inhibiting and waiting until an appropriate moment, let's say. So that's the downside. Then it also delivers this upside of the intuition. I think I wouldn't say this is exactly how it is for me, but I have heard some women say that they feel that they can walk into a room and literally feel what's going on. They don't need to be told.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can feel that. I don't know. I think we're just kind of, our emotional transmitters are, I don't know, tuned particularly sensitively, and that can be
Yeah.
a really good strength.
Yeah, thank you for explaining that because it seems to go hand in hand with the hyper awareness, doesn't it?
Yeah,
And that's, as you say,
yeah,
that's a gift.
that's
That's
it.
the
Yeah,
plus side
yeah.
of it all. As you were speaking earlier, I was intrigued when you help your clients form a picture of how they would like life to be.
Hmm.
And I remember
Yes.
at the beginning of the conversation, you painted a very good picture for us of how challenging
Mm,
life can be with, as you were saying, with the sort of shoulds and the oughts and the
yeah.
comparing and the measuring and the always running to keep up or feeling an imposter. So what's the flip side of that for your clients then? What do they want when they try and paint this picture of how they'd prefer it to be?
Well, I suppose they want to be as successful as their peers in wherever they are. So in family life, in the family setting, or in the workplace, or in friendship. I think they're looking for parity. They're looking for, this is exhausting. I can't I can't keep going on. I just want to be at ease, I think.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
a lot of my work, though, I'm suggesting quite sort of practical intervention, practical things that they can do, which can be really transformative. And like, you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes I say things, and they're like, "Gosh, why didn't I think of that?" But when
Yeah,
something has been away for so long, you just think it's always going to be this way, and how could you possibly change it? And actually, sometimes it's simple, practical things that you can put into place that can liberate you from the whole should and so on. What I would say is that definitely one of the tools for living well with ADHD, particularly for women, is to keep company with other women with ADHD, because it's a
oh,
very forgiving funny, warm place to be. And actually that's what I get from my work every day. So a great privilege for me to work with these ladies, but I get much from it too. And apart from my coaching, I do an online like chat group, and I do in real life meetups to sort of facilitate that for anybody that wants to. I have a little closed Facebook group where people can chat about, has anyone solved the problem of losing the phone or whatever it is, and they want to talk about. So I'm not just a coach. I hope that I'm also a facilitator of a little community and helping people to live well. But keeping company with other women with a similar brain, I think, is a definite tool for living well.
Sounds like a nice place to be.
Yeah.
What would your advice be to coaches in our community, in the Association for Coaching community? I would like advice about, and I suspect other people listening might feel the same. How could we be, in this case, with a woman with ADHD? What do we do if we suspect that our client might be in this, but we don't know?
So I would say, if you're working with someone that knows they have ADHD and they share that with you, I would encourage you to be as patient as possible and to put as much scaffolding around what you're doing in terms of helping them remember their commitment to the appointment, to the work. I email my clients after every appointment saying, just to remind you, this is what we talked about. This is what you said you would be working on between appointments. And then some of them I email to remind them a few days before, and then the evening before, and so on. So there might be extra practical things you might need to put into place to enable them to really get the benefit of the intervention. Try not to be shocked, because many of us are incredibly competent and successful, and yet we still, I don't know, send our kids to school on inset days and things like that. So you might assume, I don't know, like a head teacher might rock up and you might think, oh gosh, well, clearly they're all fine because they're doing this, running this multi-million-pound school, and presumably they're doing it well because they're getting paid to do it. But there will be things that she is really struggling with. So I would say, don't judge anyone by, I don't know, their I've worked with GPs, I've worked with psychotherapists, even all kinds of people. So yeah, don't make assumptions. And I suppose it would be understanding that, I don't know, there is an argument that fundamentally ADHD is impaired executive function. So like you were saying about using certain tools, if that person really has struggled with prioritization for a lifetime, then you're going to have to find a way that's going to work for them, which maybe you would never have used before. So I don't know if I'm really answering the question. I can't remember quite what the question was about. Oh, what should you do? How should you be? We respond tremendously well to cheerleading. Really love some cheerleading, some acknowledgement, some praise. When we were talking earlier about the funny sort of balances in ADHD, there's something called rejection sensitivity dysphoria, and dysphoria means unbearable, and it's a feature of ADHD, not any other condition. And it's a really unbearable response to rejection, criticism, or perceived rejection, criticism. But on the other hand, I can't remember what he calls it now. Dr. Ned Hallowell's come up with the opposite, and it has the word euphoria in it. But it means, basically, whereas criticism and rejection absolutely floor us, I mean, really floor us to the point of, I cannot function. All I can do is think about this thing. If we are praised and acknowledged and encouraged, then we're supercharged. Does that make sense? So it's
makes total sense.
So to help your client make progress, any nudge, any slight progress you notice, you want to notice it out loud and let them know how well they're doing, because they will have spent a lifetime feeling crap, frankly. They will have been thinking, something wrong with me, I'm always late, I'm always this, or I'm never that, or that. Yeah.
Fantastic. That was fantastic advice, so thank you. And I guess, and the other option is that coaches out there in our community can speak to you.
Of course, yes. I'm pretty sure my details are on the Association of Coaching website. Yes, and there are lots of really amazing advocates out there. There's great information available from the ADHD Foundation. It's based in Liverpool. I would recommend anyone just, I don't know, Googling, let's say, to pay attention to anything from Attitude magazine, highly trusted, peer-reviewed material, short articles, easy to take on board information. Attitude. In particular, if there are women with ADHD, there's an amazing podcast called ADHD for Smartass Women. She's American.
I like that title.
But she's incredible. The information she shares in particular is super helpful. So that would be another good source of information, I would say. And there are a few authors and doctors out there that are experts, which would be very easy to find. Googling Dr. Quinn, Dr. Lippman, Terry Maitland, Sari Solden, Michelle Franks, all excellent professionals, and in particular with female ADHD. So anything written by them would be highly recommended. But yes, you can always ask me, or I can always signpost you. Yeah.
And I think the listeners might indeed want to do that. So could you give us your contact details?
Yes. So I have a website. It's www.the-ADD-Vantage, theadvantage.co.uk. My email address and my telephone number are on there. And I have a Facebook page, and I have an Instagram account, which is All the Advantage, where I'm basically sharing information that I think is helpful for women with ADHD to try and not everyone can afford coaching, so try to get information out there that can be useful, helpful around how to live well with it.
Wonderful. Thank you. Pippa, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I've learnt loads. So I'm sure everybody else that's listening has as well. So very grateful. And we're also grateful that you're part of our community.
Oh, thank you very much. It's been lovely to have met you and to be part of this. This is my first podcast interview. So you've been very kind. So thank you very much.
It was a total pleasure. I really enjoyed it. And thank you for participating. So see you again soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. So thank you for listening to another podcast by the Association for Coaching. I've been Alex Morgan. Our purpose is to inspire and champion coaching excellence to advance the coaching profession and make a sustainable difference to individuals, organisations and in turn society. If you'd like to find out more, please follow us on LinkedIn and explore our webpage at theassociationforcoaching.com. There you can keep up to date with our latest episodes and conversations, as well as our digital learning calendar.